Hello, fellow educators. My name is Sedania Lane, and I work for USD 259 as a middle school teacher at Robinson Middle School. This will be my second year in education. I was at Curtis last year, and I'll be at Robinson, like I said, this year. Um, so you're probably like, why is she doing a video on Loan Forgiveness? She's a teacher. Uh, I've popped up on here sometimes on Wichita Teacher Talk. I actually know a lot about this. Prior to entering education last year, so I'll give you my credentials so you understand, you can trust me. I am a certified financial aid administrator. And prior to entering education, I worked in higher ed, specifically financial aid, for 14 years. I started at Wichita State, and the 9.5 years I was there, I spent the last 7 administering the student loan program. So I was in charge of all the federal loans, working with the business office in regards to our Perkins loan, as well as working with our private lenders on the private education loans. From there, I went to Tabor College and was the director of financial aid. We were a small man shop there, 2 people, and so still responsible for student loans there, as well as running the ins and outs of the office and stuff. So I say all this so you can trust me. 2, kind of like them old commercials for Hair Club for Men, I am a student loan borrower myself, and am still working through repayment and navigating debt from it as well. So a lot of this is important to me to educate people on, because I don't feel like this is something that we need to stress about. I know that's easier said than done. But once you understand it and you get into it, it's just something you got to do every year. But really, I will say federal aid, specifically student loans, get a bad rap. Student loans could do better. The federal government could do better as it comes to higher ed and paying for it and stuff, and especially with repayment. And I think they're trying to do that right now. They really are. But in the meantime, this is something we still have to do. If we don't, we risk our student loans falling in default, which the government's going to get its money. That could be wage garnishment, that could be your tax garnishment on any future refunds. And unfortunately, I think I've heard stories about Social Security. I hope that one's not true. So do these things and understand the vernacular, so you can kind of become empowered and confident when it comes to tackling this process. I will tell you, this website, studentaid.gov, is going to be your best friend. And I'm going to move this for a minute and try to enlarge this. Okay. So as part of their ways to make things better, the federal government a few years ago did create a kind of a one-stop shop funnel for anything related to financial aid, whether it be applying for financial aid, parents applying for Parent Plus, grads applying for Graduate Plus loans, anything as it pertains to repayment, deferments, forbearances, hardships, disability, all of that starts here. And the other nice thing about this is you can log into this website. I will not log in because I told you I do have loan debt and I work with many of you, and that would just be really weird to share my loan debt. So I'm not that secure in this. But I will tell you it's not pretty. So you can log in here anyway. You can log in here, and so it makes a lot of these action items up here much more easier to navigate, because now they have your student loan portfolio to look at any of this. When you log in, you can come out here and there's a series of clicks. And let me move my head. Okay. Probably the ones for us that we're going to work out of a lot is going to be manage your loans. When you come out here, you can actually look to see who your loan servicer is, how much you currently have out in federal loans, including any capitalized interest, how to contact your loan servicer, and more importantly, based on what we're talking about today, what type of federal loan you have. So under public service loan forgiveness, you have to have federal direct Stafford loans. Doesn't matter if it's subsidized or unsubsidized. It just has to be a direct Stafford loan. And there are two types, again, subsidized or unsubsidized. So you can see all of that out here, how to contact your loan servicer, all of that. Okay. Okay. So let me start with answering some of these questions on public service loan forgiveness that I've kind of seen throughout the last year on this Facebook page. And so when you come out here under managed loans, you're going to see public service loan forgiveness and teacher loan forgiveness. Guess what? Teachers can double dip. And by double dip, I mean you can qualify for both these programs. Teacher loan forgiveness is a program that's been around for a long time. PSLF, the one above it, did not come around until October 2007. Under teacher loan forgiveness, if you teach in one of the higher need fields, so we're talking special ed, English, I believe math, and you're in a low-income school district, you can qualify for up to $17,500 in student loans to be forgiven. If you only meet one of those qualifications or you're in any other content area, then they will only forgive up to $5,000. But that is only after 5 years, so essentially 60 payments, but 5 years of full-time employment with your school district, and your school district will have to sign off on that form. Public service loan forgiveness is 120 payments. So when you break that down, that's essentially 10 years. And I keep saying essentially because there's ways it could be extended out. Mine's being extended because I have deferments from grad school. So it's not a perfect 10. I just made a joke. Anyways, so any teacher from the point that they graduate, had they got on public service loan forgiveness immediately, they could have been doing this at the same time. Boom, 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 5 years, you put in for Stafford loan forgiveness, they forgive some of it. Boom, 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 you finish out the remaining 5 years or 120 payments, because it comes down to that number, then you can submit the paperwork for that, okay? So I just want to bring that up because that's something a lot of people don't know. But in regards to public service loan forgiveness, you can come out here and it will take you to a page that will tell you anything and everything you need to know about this program. In a nutshell, because the federal government likes to still speak legal jargon and it's convoluted. As educators, we break down content areas and differentiate lessons to where our students are going to be able to learn. So that's what I was doing essentially for 14 years, was trying to make stuff like this easy for people to understand. One, for myself to navigate it, but two, for others so they didn't stress. In a nutshell, public service loan forgiveness, there's 3 components to: qualifying employer, qualifying loans, qualifying repayment plan. Okay, so I will talk about all 3 of those. How does that work? What does it look like? How do I do it? Qualifying employer, step 1. That's where everything starts. On this page, and it's kind of buried down here, you're going to find the form that you need to have completed by the Human Resource Department. Specifically, Ben Elliott at 259 is who fills ours out. So if you come down here, like I said, it's kind of hidden. It's so stupid. I'm almost there. I saw it earlier. Oh my Lord. Seriously. Did I go past it already? It's in here. God. This is why I don't like to read this page, because it's just ridiculous sometimes. To ensure you're on the track, you submit public service forgiveness application form. Okay. So that's this form right here. I did go past it. Okay. This is what it looks like. What I would do, this is a fillable form. It's 6 pages. It's only 2 pages that have to be completed and sent off to the loan servicer. The other 4 are section 1, section 2, step-by-step directions. It's still important, especially the first time filling this out, that you go over it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure everything is filled out correctly. It's readable, the signatures are where they need to be, and the dates are on. And yeah, because if something's missing, it just kind of gets tossed to the side. So you will fill out the first page. It's pretty self-explanatory. This is your information: Social Security, date of birth, name, address. How can they contact you? Do you want to find out how many qualifying payments you have, or you believe you qualify for it? Or you already qualify for forgiveness now, but you want a forbearance while your application is being processed. Okay, so you'll check this box. Hold off on this until you get back from HR because of this. I had this happen to me once. The dates were like, I had filled mine out prior to the date my HR girl did it, and it kind of jacked it up, and so then I had to like resubmit something. So it was really stupid. It held it up. So yeah, just don't do this until you get it back. Second page, you can fill out as much of this as you want. Sometimes the first time it's just easier if you let HR do it, because you will get this back, and I always scan mine and keep a record of it. So then when the next year rolls around and I get my little notification that it's time to recertify my employment, I have this to fill in all that information, including the tax identification number for our employer. So this would be 259s. This number is on our W-2s, but I'm also going to make sure that the HR does it because I don't want to mess it up the first time. They will go through, explain what kind of employer they are, answer these questions here. Because again, this form on the front end is just determining if you have a qualifying employer. Again, 259 is one. So there will not be any issues there. Then Ben will sign this at the bottom. Who is he? What's his title? How do they need to get a hold of him if need be to make sure this is legit? Then he will send it back to you and you will sign and date. From that point, it is, I believe, page 4 of the instructions. When the form is completed, you can either mail the form, you can fax it, or you can upload it. MOHELA is the new beholder of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. It had been Fed loan servicing prior, but if you're already a Fed loan servicer like myself, you're knowing their portfolio is being transferred because they no longer want to do federal loans and ignore that program. So MOHELA is taking care of that. So I've not gone in yet and set up my MOHELA account, but generally what I would do is I would either upload the form back here after I'd logged in, and there's a place for you to do that. Or I would send it through, like I would log into myfedloan.org and upload it. So again, I've not gone out here and set my stuff up. I need to soon. Okay, so that's how you get considered for the program. Who is a qualifying employer? When this program was created in October 2007, in a nutshell, it's any job that is deemed a state job, so state of Kansas. City, county, federal jobs do qualify. They have their own kind of repayment program also, but sometimes it's more advantageous for them to do this one versus that one. They just can't do both. And 501c3 companies, so nonprofits, qualify for PSLF, and also if you work for a tribe organization. Nowhere in there did you hear me say 259 or teachers or anything. That's because there's an addendum underneath it. Public education, public health, and military. So under public education, then we qualify. There are already people on this program within the district. It just takes one to submit that for the very first time. And there's kind of this magic list out there, although they've still never posted it, that people can go and look to see who qualifying employers have already been determined, especially if they're job searching. But education is one of those. Okay, so 3 parts. Qualifying employer. I told you who is determined to be a qualifying employer, how to be considered a qualifying employer by completion of that form. So second step, qualifying loans. again, if you come out here and you log in, I'm just going to go back to the beginning page. If you click on the login button, you're going to be able to log in and access anything as it pertains to your federal student loans. Who is your servicer, how to contact them, how much you have out, interest, so on and so forth. Also, you'll want to log in too when we get to that third part. So if you don't know what kind of loans you have, only federal direct Stafford loans qualify for this program. Right now, under the temporary, they are taking some FFELP and going back and counting those because of some shady loan servicer practices. It's another reason why I like doing these repayment workshops, is because I'm basically arming people with the information. So if the loan servicer doesn't say something, then they can bring it up to them because they're supposed to. And that's now why we have some of the companies being in trouble. So anyway, you can log in here and see what kind of loans you have. Prior to 2010, schools had a choice of either being on the direct loan program or the FFELP. And I think it stood for like Family Federal Education Loan Program. I will tell you, I started working in financial aid in 2008. Wichita State began the direct loan program in 2009, 2010, because as of the 2010-2011 year, nationwide, it was going to be implemented and FFELP was going to be no more. So if you entered college after 2010, you probably only have direct Stafford loans. Now you might have some Perkins loans out there also. Those are another type of federal loan, but they're campus-based, and your lender is basically your school. That's who you're repaying. So, and if you want those to count, there's a way that you can do that. So for the explanation of this, I'm going to try to not think about the temporary thing, because one, it's going to end soon. But I think in the reality of it, from talking with some of you and with some of my past colleagues, is essentially what they're doing is they're counting all those payments as people made under the FFELP, but they're also asking them to bring them over to direct, so then they can be continued to count into the program. So how do you get qualifying loans if you have FFELP and direct loans and a Perkins? You can go out here, so same website, under Manage Loans. I gotta move this again. Under Manage Loans, so you've logged in, you've seen your entire loan history, and you see you've got all direct loans, but three FFELP loans and one Perkins loan. Now, when I say FFELP and direct, those could be subsidized and unsubsidized. That doesn't matter. Okay, it matters what type of what type of unsubsidized loan it is. That's where this program is based on. So if I log in and I see I have three FFELP loans, one Perkins, and I want to be considered for public service loan forgiveness, I can go out here and consolidate my loans. By being logged in, the website already has information to my loan history. At the same time, when you consolidate, you can pick and choose which loans you want to consolidate, which is important. There is no reason to touch those direct loans. Don't touch them. Just leave them be. Just not there, okay? Only concentrate on those three FFELP loans and that Perkins if you want it to be considered for this. So you can check, there's like a checkbox next to those four loans, and then you'll continue through the consolidation process. Please be mindful. This is why you don't want to touch those other loans when you create a consolidation loan. So the FFELP loans and Perkins loans will be paid in full through consolidation, and they will create a new loan called a direct consolidation loan. So see, now you qualify. That direct consolidation loan, the interest rate on it will be a weighted average of those four loans. So Perkins loans, majority of the time they were 5%. I've never known them to be less or more. But the three FFELP, those could vary anywhere from 2% to 6%. So that's why you don't want to touch all those other loans, because they're sitting out there at 3.4, or we had years that the unsubsidized was 6.8, and most certainly if those were grad, they were 6.8 or high at 6.8. So you don't want to touch those because we only want to worry about these 4 to get them over to be qualifying loans, and it will have a weighted average. So only manipulate what needs to be, what we need to worry about, because that's that interest component. Okay. At the very end of the application, it will give you the opportunity to choose who you want your loan servicer to be. If you're currently on public service loan forgiveness, you've probably already gotten, again, the notification that your loans are being transferred from FedLoan to MOHELA. So it's supposed to assign whoever your loans are currently with, but I'm just type A, I guess. I don't want to trust things, so I'll still choose MOHELA to assign that new loan to make sure it's where it needs to be. Okay, that's how I get all my loans to be able to be qualifying loans under this program. So qualifying employer, 259 is you have to do the employment certification form so they know you want to be considered for it. 2, qualifying loans. And if you're not already on this program, as soon as they get that employment certification form, and let's say your loan servicer was Great Lakes, because now it's deemed you want to be considered for this program, basically MOHELA contacts Great Lakes and they transfer all your student loans over to MOHELA so they can monitor the third part, which is qualifying repayments. There's several repayment plans that qualify for this program. The majority of them are income-based, and really that's where this plan, I guess, how do I say this? This forgiveness program works best because the only repayment plans that work under it, I think I can go in here and I think it brings it up. Oh, well, that's interesting. Is the standard repayment plan, which is a 10-year repayment plan. But remember, this is 120 payments. The standard repayment plan is 120 payments. So at the end of the 10 years, or the 120 payments, I gotta stop saying that. At the end of the 120 payments, there's nothing to forgive under standard. So it really comes down to the income-based repayments. Qualifying repayment plans, that's what I want right there. So qualifying repayment plans include all of the income-driven repayment plans. That would be pay-as-you-earn, income-based repayment, and income contingent. Those are the 3. Income sensitive is only for FFELP, and we already know FFELP don't qualify. So those are the 3. Again, any of these direct loans qualify, but it has to be a direct loan. And so qualifying employer, qualifying loans, qualifying repayment plan. Now, let me explain, why is this program great? I'll just call it great. I mean, it's one, we know from being educators and people who work in the public sector, they don't get a lot of raises. Money is tight. There's not always even a cost of living increase for those individuals. So these repayment plans, forget for a minute that public service loan forgiveness is 120 payments. These repayment plans are 20 to 25 years. Pay as you earn is 20, income contingent and income based are 25. So every year you will get a notification that it's time to recertify your income. Believe me, you will not forget, because when you read that letter, it will tell you, if this is not done by this date, here will be your new payment. So generally you're going to get it 2 to 3 months out. Mine, I usually get late May, sometime in June, with that new payment cycle starting in August, which is great because my taxes are already filed from the year prior. More about the taxes too. I need to make sure you guys, because I see that a lot too. A lot of people say, well, I don't qualify for income-based repayment. Probably a reason why. Because you're filing jointly. Not being condescending on that, but I ran into that problem back in 2008 when I entered repayment. My ex-husband and I together filing jointly, because that's the information you have to turn over to be considered for these plans, made too much. I was the only one with loan debt. He had already paid all his off. But they created a safety net. If you file married, filing separately, then they will only look at your income, your loan debt. So since 2008, I have been filing my taxes married, filing separately. I put my son on mine because it helps to count into that household size that I have to report. I still have to report my husband's in the home, but because I'm putting married filing separately on the ReCERT application every year. So that is the workaround. So when people say they don't qualify, it's generally because they don't know that little safety net. Now, that is something you as a family, you're going to have to discuss with your husband and your CPA because there might be some tax benefits you're giving up. But I will tell you, in the last 2 years, with the tax changes a couple years ago, with the standard deduction for married couples now being $24,000, even filing separately, it's $12,000 a piece. So we're not getting anything deducted from our taxes. So we're not losing anything there. Okay, so back to these repayment plans. These are 20 and 25 year plans. At the end of the 20 and 25 year plans, so for 20 years or for 25 years, you're recertifying your income every year. At the end of that repayment plan, so at the end of your 20 years, whatever is left is forgiven. That's how the income-based payments work. They'll be forgiven, but whatever is forgiven is taxed. So depending on which plan you are, year 21, year 26, you might have a fairly sizable tax bill because it's no different. Like if you got an inheritance, you have to pay taxes on that because it's deemed a gift. So here's the magic of public service loan forgiveness. You kept hearing me say 120 payments. That's 10 years. But if you ever stop for deferment or change jobs, the counter stops. You don't lose those payments. So it could be past 10 years, but it comes down to that 120 payments. So you heard me say 20, 25, whatever's left over is forgiven in tax. At the end of the 120 payments, you submit the application for your federal loans to be forgiven. Whatever amount is forgiven is not taxed. So this is a way to give back to public service employees because, again, we're not getting raises. We're not always getting cost of living adjustments. And let's be honest, we do some really hard work sometimes. So that's the magic of this program. It's not for everybody. Remembering to do, especially your tax thing every year, it can be cumbersome. It can be a pain in the butt. But I will tell you, I've been doing this over 10 years now. As you can tell, I have several deferments in there because otherwise I'd been done by now. That it's just something I do because in the long run, it's created less stress for me and my family that then I can still be able to support my family, my household, and have a running card to be able to go to work to pay my student loans. So that's why it's so great. They are trying to give back, but they've made it so convoluted. It's frustrating. And I will tell you, aid administrators, we always hated that about it. I am happy to help you guys with any of this, especially if you even wanted to meet one-on-one and log in. Again, I still am a certified financial aid administrator, so I am still bound through FERPA. So I am not telling everybody your business and what I'm seeing. So please trust me in that. But the biggest thing is, people trust us every day with their students for us to educate them. It is no different in financial aid. We are entrusted with helping students to be able to find the means to pay for their college education and be able to repay their federal aid that they might have borrowed while they were in college. So I'm happy to do that for you guys. I also know Wichita State has an amazing staff, and we would have people who would come into the office and ask us, and they didn't even graduate from there. Or if you ever want to look up too, Wichita State does doing continuing ed education credits. And usually in the fall, and I think the spring, one of the workshops they offer through Continuing Ed is the same student loan repayment workshop that they do for the graduating seniors and grad students at WSU in the fall and spring. So, and that is a free thing to sign up for. And it's just going and kind of going through the sites and explaining all the different repayment programs, the forgiveness programs that are out there, deferment, forbearance, consolidation, why to avoid default, all those things. You can go to that also. It's not like Wichita State is just holding this information, or any other college for that matter, holding this and not being willing to share it. Working with these administrators for 15 years now in both the state and our region and on the national level, they want to give this information to people because it is hard for them. At the same time, the federal aid does get such a bad rap. And again, believe me, the federal government, there's things they can do better. But it just comes down to knowing your options. And this is an option for teachers to do, to be able to double dip. But, and I will tell you, public service loan forgiveness, it takes a beating in Congress. Every year they want to get rid of it. Once you're in it, you're in it. So if they decide to uproot it, you will not lose that benefit. It will not disappear out from underneath you. I don't want to say the term grandfathered in, but it's like you're on there. It's not, you're not going to lose the time and effort you've put into it. So again, my name is Sidonia Lane. You can message me through Facebook. I'm happy to meet with any one of you, or put you in contact with somebody in town at one of the area colleges that I know would be more than happy to help you guys with this. But please, please, please don't stress about loan repayment or this program. I mean, once you get it figured out and started just going through the steps, it's actually fairly easy. But the last thing we need to stress about in our lives is student loans. We have enough to stress about in our schools right now. But nice to meet you guys. I hope this helped. Please don't freak out though. God bless. Bye.